US on St. Martin's Island of Bangladesh. World losing tropical forests at fast pace. Two-day unilateral ceasefire over Eid al-Adha, Sudan. Asian Development Bank to provide 400 million US dollars in loan to Bangladesh. Russia accuses private mercenary group Wagner of armed mutiny. Restrictions on aid after Cyclone Mocha compounded the dire humanitarian situation in Myanmar. Emergency meeting amid unrest in country, France. 100 people die in Mexico due to high temperature. Iran welcomes revival of ties with Egypt and Morocco. The United States has said that it has never engaged in any conversation about taking over the St. Martin's Island of Bangladesh. Responding to a question during the press briefing on Monday, the US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that US values its partnership with Bangladesh. Calling the accusation incorrect, Matthew Miller said that the US strives to bolster its relationship with Bangladesh by working together to promote democracy, including by supporting free and fair elections. Earlier, in a press briefing on June 21st, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had said that she could hold on to power if St. Martin's Island is leased out, but she would not do that. She had said that she has no intention of retaining power by selling the country's assets. The president of the Workers' Party of Bangladesh had also accused US of eyeing the St. Martin's Island. St. Martin's Island is a southernmost island of Bangladesh. The small island is a popular tourist destination and known for its natural beauty. A forest monitoring project report issued has highlighted that more than a year after countries pledged to end deforestation by 2030, the world is continuing to lose its tropical forests at a fast pace. The annual survey by the World Resources Institute, a research organization, found that the world lost 10.2 million acres of primary rainforest last year, a 10% increase from the year before. It is the first assessment to cover a full year since November 2021, when 145 countries pledged a global climate summit in Glasgow to halt forest loss by the end of this decade. The report, done in collaboration with the University of Maryland, documented tree loss in the tropics from deforestation, fires, and other causes. Last year's destruction of trees resulted in 2.7 gigatons of carbon dioxide emissions, which is a significant amount. The Sudanese paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces commander announced a two-day unilateral ceasefire in the country over the Eid al-Adha holiday. Eid al-Adha, or the Festival of Sacrifice, is a prominent Islamic festival that is celebrated all over the world, marking the culmination of annual Hajj pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, in an audio recording posted on a social media platform, said the truce will be effective for 2 days. Daglo expressed the hope that the Eid holiday would provide an opportunity for reconciliation among the Sudanese people. The North African country has been in the scene of intense fighting between Sudanese regular armed forces and RSF paramilitary group, with the epicenter located in Khartoum. The government forces accused RSF of mutiny and launched airstrikes against their bases. The parties have since introduced a number of temporary nationwide ceasefires, but the conflict has not been settled yet. The United Nations estimates that as of 12th June, at least 958 people were killed and 4,700 injured in the clashes, while over 2.1 million people were forced to leave their homes. The Asian Development Bank will provide 400 million US dollars in loans to Bangladesh for the construction of 102 kilometers long dual gauge railways between Chattogram and Cox's Bazar to promote trade, investment and tourism. The loan agreement was signed between representatives of ADB and the government of Bangladesh in Dhaka. The new rail link is expected to open this year. It aims to transport 2.9 million passengers annually between Chattogram and Cox's Bazar by 2024. Chattogram Cox's Bazar Railway is a part of Trans-Asian Railway (TAR) network, an initiative led by United Nations aiming to provide seamless rail links between Asia and Europe to better connect people and markets. TAR network provides a coordinated plan for developing a regional rail network to support intra and inter-regional trade and transport. The 128,000 kilometer long rail network passes through 28 countries and was formalized through an intergovernment agreement on Trans-Asian Railway Network in 2009. Russia has accused private mercenary group Wagner of armed mutiny and ordered arrest of its chief, Yevgeny Prigozhin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called the rebellion by Prigozhin a stab in the back and vowed to punish those responsible. Russian military helicopters have opened fire on a convoy of rebel mercenaries who were rapidly advancing towards Moscow after seizing a southern city, Rostov-on-Don. Fighters from Wagner were reportedly in control of Rostov-on-Don city, which is close to the border with Ukraine. Mr. Putin, in a televised address, vowed to crush an armed mutiny. He compared to Russia's civil war a century ago. Mr. Putin said the unfolding events were a betrayal of the country and its people, and Russia would defend itself from internal treachery. He stressed that a civil war will not allow to repeat itself in the country. The statement came as the head of the Russian private mercenary group Wagner threatened to Russia's military leadership. Prigozhin, while accusing the Russian military of attacking his forces, said that his fighters have crossed the border into Russia from Ukraine. He said in an audio message that he and his men would punish anyone who stood in their way. Meanwhile, Russian authorities have tightened the security in several regions after the Wagner Group chief vowed to topple the Moscow leadership. Russia's FSB security service has opened a criminal case against Prigozhin and has called on Wagner private military company forces to ignore his orders and arrest him. Mr. Putin is getting round the clock updates from security officials on their efforts to counter the attempt at this armed mutiny. On 26 June 1945, the United Nations Charter was signed in San Francisco by 50 nations. The charter was ratified on 24th October 1945. On 30th June 1997, in Hong Kong, the flag of British Crown Colony was officially lowered at midnight and replaced by a new flag representing China's sovereignty and the official transfer of power. The already dire humanitarian situation on the ground in Myanmar has been compounded by restrictions imposed by the military government on the delivery of aid in the aftermath of Cyclone Mocha. The UN Human Rights Office, in a report published on Friday, said that Myanmar's overall humanitarian and human rights situation has deteriorated to alarming levels as military has prevented life-saving humanitarian aid from reaching those who desperately need it. Even when humanitarian workers have been permitted access, Their ability to deliver aid has been strictly limited and controlled, says the report. The restriction on providing aid to people, especially in the west and northwest part of the country affected by Cyclone Mocha, has brought further misery and suffering to the people. Aid providers are consistently exposed to risk of arrest, harassment, or other mistreatment or even death, says the report. The Human Rights Agency pointed out that over 17.6 million people, constituting one third of Myanmar's total population, are in need of some form of humanitarian assistance. It called upon all parties to allow and facilitate unimpeded passage of life saving relief to all those in need. The UN Human Rights Chief will present the report to Human Rights Council next week. French President Emmanuel Macron held an emergency meeting amid the unrest in the country. After the meeting, in a short statement, Mr. Macron said Nahel's death had been instrumentalized, denouncing the unacceptable exploitation of the adolescent's death. He also condemned the recent violence with the greatest firmness, adding the current situation was unacceptable and unjustifiable. Meanwhile, the president outlined a series of measures to try to quell the recent violence. He has announced that more police would be deployed on the streets. Mr. Macron has asked parents to keep their children away from the violence, noting that some of those participating were very young. He added that social media had intoxicated some children and encouraged copycat behavior. Meanwhile, the French Ministry of Interior said 875 people were taken into custody during the overnight unrest. It said around 1,900 automobiles have been burned since yesterday, with fires being ignited at 500 public buildings such as police stations. Around 3,880 fire incidents were reported overnight. 249 officers were injured after the third night of unrest. Clashes between police and the rioters occurred throughout the country. Local media reported across the country 40,000 members of law enforcement were deployed to quell the unrest. In the capital Paris, 5,000 personnel were on duty overnight. Meanwhile, the UN called on France to tackle racism in its security forces. At least 100 people have died over the past 2 weeks in Mexico due to heat related causes as temperatures climbed close to 50 degrees Celsius in the parts of the country. The health ministry said on Thursday all deaths were attributed to heat stroke, while some were caused due to dehydration. A 3 week long heat wave this month strained the energy grid with record demand, forced authorities to suspend classes in some areas, and left many Mexicans sweltering. Iranian Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdollahian expressed Iran's positive stance towards re-establishing relations with Egypt and Morocco during a ceremony commemorating Eid al-Adha, emphasizing the significance of Hajj as the diplomatic opportunity for Islamic nations to foster unity and gain a deeper understanding of global affairs. He reiterated Iran's commitment to expanding ties with the neighboring and Islamic countries. Amir Abdollahian expressed satisfaction with the restoration of relations between Tehran and Riyadh through diplomacy and dialogue, while also highlighting Iran's concern over the crisis in Sudan. He underscored the importance of Palestinian cause to the Islamic world. The foreign minister further asserted Iran's determination to safeguard its sovereignty and independence from external influences, expressing openness to cultivating beneficial relations and cooperation with both East and the West. Julia Clifford Lathrop was an American social reformer, a pioneer in the field of child welfare and public welfare administration. As a member of Jane Addams' Hull House social settlement, Lathrop was active in many areas of social reform. Although she had no children of her own, she was a strong advocate for children's rights, leading to her appointment as the first president of US Children's Bureau. She was especially concerned with the high rates of infant mortality in US and spent considerable time documenting numbers and raising public awareness about this issue. Her life was characterized by diligence and concern for the situation of less fortunate, particularly the mentally ill. Lathrop is remembered as a tireless worker for the rights of underprivileged and an intelligent and effective record keeper and administrator who dedicated her life to the care of the lives of others.